In the great village of Umuaka, the young King Adi reigns supreme. He is notorious for being a tyrant. His words are laws, and anyone who goes against his words faces a death sentence. King Adi forcefully took the throne from a family whose kingship ran in their ancestry. King Adi is known to take wives at will and forcefully take people's wives as far as he fancies them. He grew so powerful and notorious that even the neighboring kingdoms feared him. Then he started conquering kingdoms and taking hostages, some he sold, and some he made his slaves. Nobody dares to question him about the atrocities that he commits. He became so power-drunk that he began to make statues of himself while enforcing people to worship him as God. He went as far as killing all the mediums that connect the people to the gods of their ancestors while burning their shrines. The gods of their ancestors became angry but couldn't do anything because all their mediums and shrines had been destroyed. They couldn't talk to the people or do anything to the people without their mediums. The gods cannot interfere with the human without their consent and connection. Things were going from bad to worse in the kingdom of Umuaka and its environs. People secretly cry out to their gods, but there was nothing they could do to help. Okamba family are the right heirs to the throne, but Adi turned them into servants. Going from nobility into being a servant is what Enyi, the royal king, could not bear, so he killed himself. He was thrown into the evil forest with no befitting burial, because it is an abomination to kill oneself. Adi commanded that nobody should mourn for him. So his family resumed work immediately. With heavy heart. Enyi has a daughter called Akala, who looks so graceful, beautiful, and has a face that lights up the room. Akala is her father's favorite child and also the closest to him. Because of this closeness, her father let her in on many secret information. One is about the Umuakara stone, which lies inside the heart of the evil forest. This stone is said to give anyone who wields it the power of 1,000 gods. The person can command the whole earth, but mere mortals cannot dare to behold it. Talk more of wielding it. Before King Adi usurped the throne, he had tried severally to venture into the evil forest in search of the Umuakara stone, but has been met with great resistance. He lost a lot of men in the process. He retreated but did not retrace from his quest. His quest for power took him 20 kingdoms away from his kingdoms into the cave of Okot, the most dreaded cave. It was rumored that the devil himself Edi lives in that cave. When King Adi got to that cave, he had to fight every atom of fear in him to survive, because Edi feeds on fear. For every chamber he got in the cave, he made a human sacrifice. On getting to the last chamber, a huge dark cloud formed a curtain that prevents him from seeing the owner of the voice he was hearing. This quest cost King Adi the 3 people he loves so much in the world: his father, his mother, and his wife. This made him heartless and ruthless. Edi instructed King Adi to inflict fear anywhere he goes. His power is connected to the fear the people have of him. The more fearful people are of him, the more power he has. Akala could not bear the loss of her father, so she secretly mourned him. She was wearing her mourning clothes and covered in ashes before dawn, and went to the Irako tree to wail for her father. She was caught by a palace guard, who took her to the king chambers for the king to pass judgment on her. The news of her arrest traveled fast that her kinsman ran to the palace to plead her cause. When King Adi came out to see who dared flout his decree, on setting eyes on Akala, a softness that he has never sensed before enveloped him. He was taken aback by what he felt. To process what he was feeling, he asked everyone to go out of the room, leaving just him and Akala staring at each other. The fear that Akala felt initially was replaced by curiosity. Why is he staring at me like that? Is he going to kill me here? That would desecrate the palace? Should I stand or should I bow? So many questions running through her mind. King Adi spoke first. He inquired about her childhood, and her family. During the questioning, he found out that she was the child that gave him water when his father sent him to farm the soil before the planting season. His father sent him there as a punishment for being overbearing. He was sent there without food, water, and some supervision. When he was about to drop from exhaustion, a little girl with the face of an angel snuck in behind him, gave him her jar of water with a big smile whose impression has lasted for the longest time. That same face is The one staring at him now, but instead of a big smile, it is replaced with questions. That little girl had grown into a beautiful young woman. For the first time, King Adi was lost on what to do or say. He pointed at a seat close to him and motioned the girl to come and sit close to him. Then conversation started. King Adi felt like he met an age-long friend who he just reconnected with. Akala, on the other hand, was being careful with her answers so as not to incur any more punishment. She has heard so much about this man and his dreadful acts, but the man before her is not filling into that picture. After what seemed like an eternity, King Adi called in everyone back into his palace and to pass the decree. His decree was that Akala would remain in the palace as a servant, and sigh of relief could be heard all over the room. This is a good news to the heir of Akala's family, who fear greatly for her life. Instead of being sent to the servants' quarters, the king instructed that Akala be kept in his guest quarters and given decent dress. Words started flying about the preferential treatment the king is giving to Akala. Akala, on the other hand, did not understand why the king is yet to mete out a punishment to her. The king, on the other hand, has developed a soft spot for Akala. This is the first time since the demise of his wife that he has felt like this, and the softening is more than he has felt for anyone else. He is supposed to make everyone fear him. Why does he want this girl not to fear him? He asked himself. Does it mean that he is losing his power? He asked himself. Each time he resolved to set an example with the girl, his resolution vanishes at the sight of her. Akala, on the other hand, saw the ill treatment meted on people at the palace, and she was disgusted and angry at the king, but she dares not say anything so as not to warrant the king's anger. The disgust she feels made her want to throw up. This made her to start planning for her escape from the village. But each of her attempts were met with strong resistance. On the other hand, King Adi is already planning on how to marry her. To him she brought peace that he hasn't felt in a long time. The only problem he has is that this will make him appear weak, as Akala is meant to be his prisoner waiting for punishment. Thus he made a plan. He feigned sickness, and no matter the number of medicine men that came to cure him, he was not getting better. He already knew that early in the morning before cock crows, Akala would go into the farm at the back of the palace to mourn her late father secretly, and she usually sang while doing that. So early in the morning before the cock crows, Eddie called his palace guards and servants to take him to the farm where Akala has escaped to. As King Adi and his guards were passing through the farm, they heard a sweet melodious voice, and King Adi, who was shivering, stopped. Then he claimed that the sickness has left him. Then he told some of the guards to take him back to the palace, and ordered the rest to find the woman who cured his sickness. When Akala saw the men coming, she wanted to run but was caught by them and dragged to the palace. Akala was held at the cubicle where hostages that the king wants to pass a judgment on are kept. The next morning, the king summoned the town to pass his judgment. He started by telling everyone how he has been sick for days. Just last night in his dream, the Almighty appeared to him and told him to take a walk at the palace farm, and therein lies the cure. The voice of the Anointed One will chase the sickness away. The person bearing that voice is destined to be his wife. There was astonishment written on the faces of everyone present, but no one dared to mention a word for the fear of being punished severely. Akala, on the other hand, was distraught, but she kept quiet. There and then the king fixed the date of which he would be wedded to Akala. Akala became inconsolable, so drowned in her sorrow and feeling helpless. Why has her God forsaken her? Why is she being tortured? These were the questions that she was constantly asking herself. Then she came to a conclusion. Over her dead body, will she be married to this tyrant? Akala shot up from her sleeping mat due to the dream she had. She dreamt of a very handsome man with the face that shone like the sun. He was everything she can't imagine. Like electromagnetic force, he was pulling her to himself. This dream continued for the next few days, and became more vivid. As the day of the wedding draws close, the more Akala dreaded it. Few days to the wedding, she made up her mind to leave the village in search of the man in her dream. She was sure this man exists and is beckoning on her to come. As night approaches, Akala made her escape plan and waited in dreadful fear mixed with anticipation. All she knows is that this palace will not witness her presence the next day. At midnight, the time the guards rotate their shift, was an open window for Akala to make her move with all the speed that she could muster. The deal is that Akala has already made her plans ahead of time. She has watched and observed every actions and movement like a hawk watches over a baby's. When she saw the opportunity to flee, she took what she packed and ran. She didn't look back until she got to a place she felt is safe for her. By the time she realized where she was at the middle of the thick forest and everywhere was bleak dark. She became terrified of her surrounding, but instead of going further, she sat on a tree and made it comfortable to sleep on. Akala slept off and was in deep sleep when she was awoken by a very bright light. She was curious, but before she could come down and found out what was happening, the light disappeared, so she went back to sleep. The next morning, Akala came down and looked around her, ensuring that no one was following her. She followed what looked like a trail and found herself in a river. The river was crystal clear, that she could see its bed. She thanked her God and drank to satisfy her thirst. She went further to wash up and caught some fish. She made fire and cooked the fish to eat. She was startled when she heard a voice behind her. When she turned, she saw the most handsome man she has ever seen. He stood tall like an iroko tree and exuded the glory of a celestial being. She was transfixed that she couldn't talk for a moment. Then he spoke. His voice was like a music to Akala's ear. Akala offered him some fish, of which he ate with so much relish. Akala inquired about him and what he was doing at the forest, but instead of answering her question, he threw it back at her. She told him her story, and he told her that he is here to make everything right. Akala asked him what he meant, and he said that he is the one that will overthrow Adi, but that he would be needing her help. Akala was startled of how he came to know about Adi. From his look, he doesn't seem to be from the village of Umuaka. His whole appearance does not look like someone that came from the neighborhood of Umuaka and its environ. Akala was in awe of this man who looked like he fell from heaven.